This is just going to run through the tools again like we did before, just on the toolbar and just some of the basics of Affinity Designer. So like in Illustrator, when you first boot it up, you've got all your presets down here, so you can find the document size that you want rather than having to create it yourself manually, but you can do that as well if you wanted to, so you can change the page height and width. So I think we've covered this already, so I don't want to go into this bit in too much detail, but you can obviously set your margins and bleed and everything like that. But if we just go and create an A4 document for now, so it gives us our artboard here, and if we just start on the toolbar on the left hand side, you may remember from our previous Illustrator sessions, we've got two different selection tools. One is for, so if I just draw a shape in here, so one is your direct selection tool. So now I can, with that black arrow, I can click that object and drag it and move it anywhere I want. So you can move your object like that. But using the other one, which is called the node tool in Illustrator, I can change this object by the points like that. So you can drag it by the actual point. And the other option there, so once I'm going over a tool there, you'll see it's got a little arrow on the left hand side. So what that means is that once you click down on that, you have a second option there that's available to you. So now if I go to point transform, this is where you can start to manipulate what's called the anchor points, or the parts of the shape that are joined. Right, parts of the path that are joined, shall I say. So you can see that's joined there by that single point. So as soon as I click that now, you can see it's going to start to scale it from that point. So if I double click as well and hold that down, you see I can click and scale it by that point there. So I'm just going to grab a different shape because it might not be the best example doing a square. So let's just draw a star in there. So now, once I'm clicking and using the point transform, you can see it's scaling from that point. And once you get that little ball there, excuse me, that ball there, you can move it any way you want. So basically then, what you're doing is scaling it from that particular point. So you can see whenever I'm making it bigger or smaller, just by clicking and dragging on the point, it's scaling to that specific point on the object. So that's what that tool does. So just coming back to our node tool then. So I'll just put in a new shape again. So let's just choose a call out rectangle tool. So you can see once you actually click on a point here, if you hold down the arrow key, oh, might have to give it a minute. I think it's possibly frozen. Sorry, I have to just give that a minute because I think it may have just frozen my. Yeah, we'll just start that again. Yeah, so what I was showing you was we have an object in here, and what I want to do here is click and drag by that point. So you see if I hold shift as well, it's not scaling it in proportion. So I'm clicking across like that and it's changing the actual shape. Whereas if you just do it without, you'll see it won't keep if I hold down Shift, you'll see it keeps the aspect ratio there. Whereas if I don't press Shift, it will just resize it to however you see best fits without keeping it in proportion. So that's the node tool and the point transform tool. This one down here is the contour tool. So this is when you have an object. So we'll just draw a shape again. So once you click this, that's going to allow you to essentially create an outline around the shape that you already have. So you can see so if I just go back to our initial shape, so that's our initial shape there. So as I'm using the contour tool, you'll see it's making that outer blue line is essentially a new shape on top of the original shape that you have. So you see I can increase that by dragging away from me on the keyboard, or perhaps I wanted to have it inside the shape. So I just need to click and drag away from me with the mouse there. So you see it's going inside the shape now or going outside the shape. And you'll see up here, you've got different options to set for your contour. So you've got, at the moment, we're on no contour cap. But if I was to switch that to rounds, it rounds it off a little bit more the more that you increase it. And then if we was to stick to the straight one here, you can see it makes it a lot more straight there. And you also have a contour type. So at the moment we're on rounds like we were before, but again you can switch that to straight, so it's straight all the way around. So the difference between the contour type and the cap is that the contour type is going to affect the whole shape, whereas the contour cap is going to sort of restrict it. So if I now press that to the rounded version and just increase it, you see, because we've got the contour type set to straight, it's not going to make any difference. But if I were to change the contour type to rounded now, you'll see using a rounded contour type with a rounded contour cap will always have a rounded effect. So it's important just to remember to just double check what option that you're wanting to do, because you might be on a square and a rounded. So for example, if you were trying to make that rounded and it wasn't rounded, there's a reason why. It's because it's the contour type is first of all what you would select to round it off. So you can see it changes when I come closer and further away from the original shape there. The meter, that's just how much it affects. So you can see there it's starting to have a lot more effect, whereas if I put that to like 1, it's having slightly less of an effect there. And you've got things like contour fill where you can add a shape in the middle there, so you can see how that affects it, clicking away from the original shape there. And then you've got a rounded version there, which don't think that has much of an effect. I don't know why you would use that really. So that's the contour tool. Next one is the corner tool. So again, if I just draw a square, so this is good if you're wanting to round off a particular corner. So I'll just go back to the original shape. So like we had before, we've got our 4-sided rectangle there. So as soon as I click wrong tool. Yeah, so as soon as I click the corner tool, you can click any point on here that you want to select. So at the moment, it looks like it's going to be selecting that point, but you can click any point that you want to. So let's go back to our original point. So once I click that, it goes blue, and you see the other ones are white with a blue outline, whereas that's a solid blue one. So what that means is it's going to affect that particular point. So just like the other tool, all I need to do is just click down on the point and just drag. So I'm dragging in towards the shape, and you'll see it starts to give you an outline around that corner of what's going to happen. So ignore that red line on the inside of the shape. That's not actually going to be visible. It's that shape on the outside that we want to focus on. So you'll see it's starting to, the more I start to bring that shape in, the more it rounds it. Excuse me. And vice versa. The more you bring it out away from the shape and back towards the original point, it's going to round it even less. And you see, as I'm doing that, it gives you a radius at the top there. So, for example, if you're wanting to have a consistent point across each of the points, a consistent radius across each of the points, you can type that in. So let's say we want all of them to be 20 mil. So you can just click into the box here and just type in for 20, click enter. So you can do the same on this one. So you can come into here. So now I've clicked on that point, you see it's gone blue. So you can just come into here and go 20 mil. And you can do the same for all of them. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of that tool. So that's that one. The pen tool we will have done before a couple of times. So you see, once you select the pen tool, you've got a couple of options down there. So you've got a white and a black. So at the moment, if I try and draw, you'll see it's got an outline there, but we might want to switch it round to have a black fill. So you'll see where there's the little two arrows there. That means you can switch them round. And where the icon's got a little red line through the middle of it there, that essentially means that there's nothing applied in that fill. So we can just double click into that, and we can change the color to whatever we want. So let's just use a green for now. Okay, so at the moment we've got a green fill with a black outline, and so if I just delete that, you can draw any way you want, and you don't have to necessarily join the points up either. So if you wanted a line instead of a solid shape, so once I was happy with that point, for example, if I was happy for that line, all you'd need to do to essentially not to end the line is just come up to where the move tool is and just click that. So you see, as soon as I do that, that's now one object that I can move around and change if I wanted to. And you can rejoin your points as well. So all you need to do for that is make sure you've got the node tool selected. So once I've done that and clicked on the shape, you can see the anchor points now. So you can see all the individual points I've made. So you can click on each of these and just adjust them wherever you'd like to. And you can then join up your points. So to do that, you just need to click on one of them and just hold down Shift and just come down to here. So I'm holding Shift, and then I'm just going to click on the second point. And if I go to right click, there is a way to join them up. I think it may be Control J, maybe not. No, let's try that again. Control J. Just going to find the option of where you, oh, maybe not. It's here somewhere, but you can just redraw the points between them. So we've got that one selected. So all you can do is just come down to your pen tool here. So once you click there, wherever I click now, it's going to draw in a new point. If you wanted to go from there to there, all you need to do is just click that one point there, come down to here, click again. And then, so again, once we've made our selection and we're happy with it, you can just click on the move tool there, and you'll see that's now an object that we can delete that one. Yeah, you'll see that's an object now that we can change if we wanted to. So we might want to give it a fill again, so you can do that. And again, you can still change all the anchor points by selecting the node tool there. So that's the pen tool. And again, you can do curves like I mentioned before, and you've got you can affect the shape and the curve of the paths you've drawn there by selecting what's called the anchor point there by what's called the handles. So these parts are called the handles whenever you select an anchor point. It'll give you some handles here, so you can click on that side or you can click on that side, and it's responsive to where you click and drag, so you can do that as much or as little as you want to. So that's the pen tool. The pencil is pretty self-explanatory, so you can change the width of it like you can the brushes. So at the moment it was on about 0.4, so if I just click and drag, and this is a free-form tool, so you can't control it in the same way as you do with the pencil. So it's just like sketching on a bit of paper, so it's quite rough and freehand. So again, you can change the width of it. You can change the length, for example, of how far it comes out. You can do the color, etc. So that's the pen tool, and you see once I've drawn a line in there, it'll give you anchor points again, so that you can affect that further if you wanted to. So we'll just get rid of that. I've got the vector brush tool. Now, what this does is it is in reference to your brushes. So you'll see when I do this, what this is going to do is, so if I select a brush here to show you, so this is a little bit misleading in the sense that in Adobe Illustrator, all your brushes are vector. So meaning, as you already know, that whenever you draw a shape like this, that in Adobe Illustrator, this would now be completely vectorized, meaning that you can scale that to any size that you want without any loss of quality. However, something I've noticed in Affinity is that it's not actually completely 100% vector. So all of these brushes here, so whenever I'm using the vector brush and I'm selecting one of these brushes, if I zoom right in, you'll see it's not actually vector because it is it's basically an image brush. So what that means is that it's not 100% vector. So you just have to make sure to outline it, which I think you can do. Vertical curves, no. Though actually thinking about it, I don't think that you can. That's one drawback that I did find with Affinity, was that you can't actually outline your shapes, which is a little bit frustrating. I'm surprised they haven't added that in, but anyway. So just important to note that all the brushes that you use with the vector brush, they are, although they look vector, they're not actually completely 100%. So you see, as I'm drawing that in, what it's doing is putting an image in there, so you can see, because of the delay, you can see where it's starting to put that image into the brush. Whereas in Illustrator, it's 100% vector graphic. So, I mean, it doesn't matter too. So what I would do is, if you know the size of your artwork, all you need to do is just make sure your artwork is that size to avoid any loss of quality. That's the only thing to keep in mind with those brushes. So we've got the knife tool. So that's pretty self-explanatory. So what you can do is you can chop shapes in half. So we've got our knife tool selected, we've got a shape selected. So you can draw a straight line, or you can do what's called an auto close. So if we start with the straight line, so let's say, for example, that I want to draw right through the middle of this. So all you need to do is just click and drag, and you'll see it draws a line of where you're going to cut it. So if I let go now, you'll see it's put that shape into two now, and we can separate them now by using the move tool and just bringing that over like that. And if I just go back a step and just show you the other version of the knife tool, I don't know why I can, there we go. So that auto close, yeah, so auto close, what that does is, you see how before we ended two, when we drew it before, we just had one straight line from this point down to the other one, and it picks that up as two shapes. Whereas this one, what it does is it tries to keep all your points that you've just drawn in along your path. So the other option was a little bit more precise, whereas this one, that version of the knife tool, is a lot more. Again, you've got to have your object selected before you draw it. So again, you've got to have. So this is if you want a really particular line. So let's say like that. You can see, look, it, and as with the anchor points and the pen tool, it picks up your entire path. Where the other version is, it's just a straight, more of a straight, precise cut. So I'll just demonstrate that again. So we've got the straight line one selected. So we're just drawing a straight line from there to there. You'll see it gives you a straight line, and I'll click and let go. Bang. So that's the difference between the two on the knife tool there. Vector flood tool. This is pretty much like a. So if I just give that no fill. So to give an object a fill, you just come up to. You can just double click the fill there, or you can click it down here, and from here, maybe you can't affect the fill from there. So from this option on the fill here, you just come up to that red line. So you can just click on that, and that should have no fill now. So you have the object selected, come up to fill, and that's not got any fill now. So you can see, because you can see the white behind it. So where I'm coming up to vector flood fill tool now. So we've got our. So let's say that we want to fill it with green. So if I now come over to that part and click, you'll see that it fills that in. And you have some different fill modes here, but I'll come back to those just as they're a little bit more complex, and you can do some images. And, yeah, so I'll come back to these at a later session. So that's the vector flood fill tool, and you've got your gradient tool as well. So we covered that in the last session, but what this is one color fading into another color. So if I just draw another line in there, so once I come down to the gradient tool, we've got a fill, and you can see we've got nothing selected. So we need to do a particular gradient type. So if we were to do solid and just click in there, linear, solid. Yeah, so solid is a solid color. Whereas what we want is, first of all, let's try a linear gradient. So you'll see you've got two colors there. We've got a white going into a gray, and you can double click on this part here, up here, and that's where you can change the colors. So you can see you've got a white to a gray. So if you double click that, or you can click down here, you can change whatever that color is going to be, and you can move the fade between them by moving that little line. So maybe you want more of a really abrupt color from one to the other. You can do that by moving that middle cursor there, and you can reverse the gradient. For example, you might want it the other way around, and you can do the opacity of the two different colors. So you can make this one 50%, so you can see through to something else behind, and you can do that you can set the other point to another opacity, so you can make that 100% if you wanted to. So that's the linear gradient. So all these different gradient types here are all slightly different shapes of a gradient. So once we click that one, the elliptical, this I believe is it's a triangle shape. So you've got essentially 3 points now. So you've got a white color, a pink, and you've got two pinks. So if we were to just change that, so if we just move that out of the way, we can see what we're doing. Yeah, so if I change that one to a yellow, so we've got a yellow starting green starting in the middle, and we want a red on the outside. So you can see, and sorry, that's my mistake. So it's not actually a 3-point gradient. It just looks like it. So whatever color you choose on the outside, it's going to apply it on the outside and then give you Sorry, it is a 3-point gradient. That's right, because we've got 3 points here. So we've got the inner point there, which is the brown. We've got the green, and then we've got the orange on the outside. So again, you can change any of these just by clicking on them, and you'll see once I click on them, it shows you the color up here. So you can change it to whatever you like. And again, you can change just by clicking on any of the points in the gradient. You can check any of your opacity and adjust it to whatever you want. So that's the elliptical gradient. We've got a radial gradient, which is similar, but slightly different in how it displays it. So it only gives you 3 points all in the same line, essentially. And again, you can like the pen tool and all the other shapes, you can adjust it to where you want. So if you wanted a really short gradient, you can adjust it, or if you wanted a really wide one, you can just click and drag away from the object there. And you can actually move the gradient to wherever you want it. So I'm just clicking and dragging, and again, I'm moving it around there. So that's the radial one. You've got the conical gradient. So this is sort of like, I'm not quite sure the best word to describe this one. It's sort of like a circular radial gradient, but it's sort of flattening it. So you can see it gives you the shape of how the colour is being applied. So we've got our orange starting here. It's coming all the way around, and we've got our green on the outside there, and then the green is coming all the way around to the brown. And you can adjust the size of it however much you want it to come inside the shape or not. You can change the angle just by clicking and dragging it around, and again, you can do the colors on that. You've got bitmap, which you can add an image into your shape. So if I just go to bitmap again, I'm saying bitmap, and then come down to here, and we'll just click. Let's just say we want an image there for my desktop. And you can see it's added, and this is a great feature because this doesn't exist in Adobe Illustrator, I believe. You'd have to manually create this as a pattern. It's a bit difficult to do. So it's nice that they've just included this right out of the box. So that's my one image there, and what it's doing is tiling it along the shape. So you can move that wherever you want. You can change the angle, you can rotate it, you can have as many copies in there as you want. So that's a really nice effect, actually. The crop tool sort of does what it says on the box. So if I just go back to my shape, perhaps we want to, let's say we only want to crop it to like that bottom corner. So you see when I click the crop tool, it gives you a different shape around the outside of it. And what that means is you can then, if I come to the individual points there, you see the arrow changes. So when I click and drag, it'll just allow you to, and again, you can put it back if you want to. So let's say you made a mistake, you can just click and drag back up, and you can still get to the original shape. So you can click down, you can click across from the corner, etc., to crop a shape or an image to where you want. So that's the crop tool. We've covered some of the shapes already, so I won't go into too much into these, but this is really nice about Affinity, is that it gives you a load of shapes right out of the box. So you've got things like the triangle tool, diamond tool, stars. The cog tool is actually a really nice tool to have out the box, because creating something like this is really hard to do in Illustrator. Well, it's not. It just takes a little bit of setting up. So you can set your radius and things like that. So you can see I'm doing. So you can see I'm just affecting the, and you can do that with all of the shapes. It will give you some settings that you can change. So you know I'm changing the inner circle there. It's just worth having to play around and just seeing what the different settings do for each of the shapes. That's all the shapes. So yeah, I won't go into all of those. There's quite a few to go through. And you've got your shape builder tool. So what that will do is, I think we covered this in the last session, but I'll just come out of that. So we've got two separate shapes here. So we've got that one and we've got that one. So with them both selected, like that, I'll just come down to the little arrows at the bottom and I'll just click on Shape Builder tool. So you can see the lines automatically change then. So all I'd need to do is just, so let's say for example, we wanted to join all of these tools up together. So all I need to do is just click into there, and you'll see as I do that, it starts to highlight the different lines. So all I'm doing is I'm saying I want that shape to come inside of that shape, to come inside of that shape. So once I click and drag now, it's made, oh, that's weird. I'll try that again. That didn't quite work. So I'll try that again. Shape Builder tool. And we want to, that's right. I think because I didn't have any of these selected. So we want to create a new shape from the selected area and remove the used areas from the original. So now, once I come into here, what it's done is removed the, so if I just go back, it's removed the middle bit there, and it's just kept the outer outline. So if I just do that again, look, so I'm coming from this shape, and you'll see it gives you the lines of where the shapes are intersecting, and I'm coming into that shape now. You can see it's highlighted, and you'll see the purple is what shape is going to be left, and the blue on the outside, sorry, the smaller blue is what's going to be removed, and the thicker lines are what's going to be left. So if I click and drag now, you'll see that it just adds it all into one shape. You've got some different options. For example, you can remove as well. So if I were to click remove the shape and do exactly the same thing, back to Shape Builder. So you'll see it's going to remove the points now. So remove the whole shape there, but we just want to remove that bit and that bit. So you see it removes that, and we've just left with the outline. Again, that's another one that's worth playing around with. You can get some quite interesting shapes from it. So we've got the artistic text tool, which this is if you just want to drop in some text at a large size, or just if you're adding notes, or you just want to start with a nice big headline and you don't want to drop some text in and manually adjust the size and the top, you can do it like that. Whereas so if I come back to where it says text tool, you see you've got frame tool, which is, this is where it'll just drop in a normal text box, standard text box. They're saying that's when you would maybe put in your paragraph text or something like that. So that's the text tool. Color picker, I think you've used that already, so I won't go too much into that. The style picker we'll probably come back to. What that means is that will, if you have one object selected with a certain stroke color, a certain fill, and maybe how I had my image set to a gradient, perhaps we wanted that to be a style for another shape. So you could use that to pick that up, but we can come back to that. And you've got the measure tool, which is great for, as again, I don't think Illustrator has this at the moment, but that's pretty self-explanatory. But what it will do is if we wanted to know the width from, sorry, the distance from that point to that point, just by going to the measure tool, you can see from that point there to that point there, 52.1 mil, and it'll give you a ratio up here of the drawing scale. So that would be really useful if you're doing technical drawing or something like that. So that's really good for that. And then the area tool, I haven't actually used this yet, but from what I gather, it's more technical drawing rather than illustration or graphics. So probably come back to that, as it looks quite technical and I haven't used it before. So the zoom tool, you've used this already, but yeah, essentially you can zoom in on your artboards, by holding Alt on the keyboard, you can zoom in, zoom out. So as soon as you press Alt on the keyboard, you'll see the cursor changes, zooming in or zooming out. And you can set your measurements there, what you're zooming in by if you wanted to. So that's just a basic overview of Affinity and the tools on the left hand side here. So hopefully you found that useful. And yeah, cheers. Maybe you're someone that's got an interest in graphic design, maybe you've got an interest in creating logos, give me a shout.
I have some spots open for tutoring, and as always, check out my portfolio for my latest work. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.